What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Nasha. Welcome back to the channel. Now, at the time that I'm recording this video, it is currently Saturday, February 12th, and it's 1 right now, 1 in the afternoon, and it is scorching hot here in LA. It's not supposed to be until summer, of course, but the reason why I'm doing this video now instead of tomorrow, which will be Sunday, which will be when you guys will see the video, I'm actually going to be working on a couple things. I'm going to be I'll be pretty busy tomorrow, so it's going to be an interesting Sunday to say the very least. But for this video, I have an updated X-Saber deck profile for you guys. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't do a whole lot with this deck. I just made a couple of adjustments to the extra deck and to the main deck. The side deck is almost the same, but what's cool about this is that it uses up a fusion that requires 2 specific synchros, which I'll explain what those synchros are in a little bit. Once we get into the extra deck, I will showcase it to you guys. This is probably by far the more better version of the X-Saber deck, because even though Fire Formation Tenki is at 1, it can still pull off some of the plays that they used to make when Tenki was at 3. And the reason why Tenki got limited to 1 was because of the Lurlisk Tri-Brigade deck, which completely took over the meta. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this deck profile. If you guys do, and if you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. The links will be down in the description, and if you guys want to send any fan mail, that info will also be in the description as well. Anyway, guys, let's get straight into it. First up, we have 3 copies of Double X-Saber Fall Troll. This is basically your Cyber Dragon for the whole deck. So what the card does, it says, cannot be normal summon or set, must be special summon from your hand by controlling 2 or more face-up X-Saber monsters, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn, you can target 1 level 4 lower X-Saber monster in your grave, special summon that target. So not only is this a Cyber Dragon, but it's also a Monster Reborn, which will help you go into your link plays if you want to go into pretty much whatever links you have in your extra deck, or you can go into your synchros by using just Fall Troll as a Monster Reborn. As a Monster Reborn to bring back cards like Ember's Blade, Fulhelm Knight, Airbellum, Dark Soul, whatever you want to summon. This card will basically give you the materials you need to go into your synchros or even also your links if need be. Then, of course, we have 2 copies of Double X-Saber Guard Strike. This is basically another Cyber Dragon, but instead of having 2 monsters on the field, you have to have 2 X-Saber monsters in your graveyard, but you also have to have no monsters on the field to special summon this card, which is actually pretty insane, because if you have two in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, normal summon, you can special summon this, normal summon Airbellum, special summon Fall Troll, activate Fall Troll's effect, and resummon a card like, I'll say Ragigora, which will then trigger Ragigora's effect, and you can bring back the X-Saber monster that was in the graveyard when you special summon Guard Strike. So it's a pretty nice combo. Be able to help you go into cards like X-Saber Airbellum, the Hunley, I believe that's how it's pronounced, or even also Souza, which is actually a pretty interesting which is a pretty interesting card, which I'll explain those cards once I get to the extra deck. Then, of course, we have 3 copies of Double X-Saber Bogard Knight. This is basically your combo starter. So, what this card does is says, when this card is normal summon, you can special summon a level 4 or lower X-Saber monster from your hand. Cannot be used as Synchro material except for the Synchro summon of an X-Saber Synchro. So, obviously, this is basically your... This is basically your Marauding Captain, if you will. So, if you guys have never seen or ever heard of Marauding Captain, it's a really old card that was released, I believe, in Legacy of Darkness, and its effect reads, your opponent cannot target warrior monsters for attacks except this one. When this card is normal summon, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from your hand. That's what Bogard Knight is. It's basically Marauding Captain, but on steroids, because of the fact that it basically locks you into your X-Saber Synchros, and there's 1, 2, 3. There's only 4 X-Saber Synchros in this deck. I did have 5, but I ended up taking out that one, and I actually replaced it. And that one X-Saber monster that I took out was Wayne, because Wayne really does nothing in this format. I know it's a 2100 beat stick, but adding a warrior from your deck to your hand, that's nothing. I mean you could do that off of Rhoda, you could do that off of pretty much any other off of like Emmer's Blade and even also Dark Soul, so you really don't need Wayne all that much. But still, this card is absolutely nuts. It can help you summon out Airbellum, go into a level 7 play. It can help you summon. It can help you summon out. Summon out your Emmer's Blade. You can even could go into an Airbellum if need be, or even a Souza for the matter, which is really cool, which is pretty nice. Then, of course, then we have the Airbellum, which is basically the white magical hat, I would say. I would say this is the white magical hat of the whole deck. So, white magical hat was released, I believe, in Metal Raiders, if I remember correctly. So, the effect reads, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, your opponent discards 1 card randomly from his or her hand. Airbellum is the exact same way, but it has to be via a direct attack. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. This card can basically just rip out pretty much any busted card that your opponent may have, and it's just absolutely insane. I don't know how to describe this card. This card is just absolutely insane. And plus, it's a tuner monster, so it can help you. So you can easily use him to go into any of your synchros, depending on what your opponent's deck is. It can be depending on what deck your opponent plays. This card can help you just go into pretty much any synchro that you may have, and I'm running 8 synchros in this deck in the extra, which is pretty cool. Then, of course, we have 2 copies of Double X-Saber Full Helm Knight. This is actually not too bad. It's not too bad of a card. So obviously, it's a tuner, and the effect reads, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can target the attacking monster, negate that attack. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. If this card destroys an opponent's defense position monster by battle, target a level 4 or lower X-Saber monster in your grave, and special summon it. So this is basically another monster reborn, but it's also a negate attack as well. So it can help you survive another turn, which will help you go into your synchro plays, or if you were feeling risky, you can go into your link plays and just go all out with this card. It's pretty nice. Then, of course, we have 2 copies of Double X-Saber Emmer's Blade. This is basically your, I want to say your Stratos of sorts, but you're special summoning from the deck. So the effect reads, when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the grave, you can special summon a level 4 lower X-Saber monster from your deck. Obviously, the effect won't come up, but because you're mainly going to be tuning Full Helm Knight and Ember's Blade into the Hyunli, which is basically your sort of like your triple MST for the deck, which I'll explain that here in a bit. So again, you're going to be using the Ember's Blade for the summon of your Hyunli, and that's pretty much it. If the effect of Ember's Blade does come up, then you're most likely going to be targeting. Bogart Knight for the most part, because obviously all three of your Bogart Knights are going to be in your graveyard, because that they used them as synchro material or even link material for that matter. So Ember's Blade could come up, but it just depends on what your board state looks like. And then to round out the X-Saber monsters, we have 3 copies of Double X-Saber Dark Soul. This is basically your Stratos for the deck. So the effect reads: during the end phase, if this card was sent from your side of the field to your graveyard this turn, you can add 1 X-Saber monster from your deck to your hand. So it doesn't matter whether it was sent by battle, a card effect, by way of a summon, whether it was a tribute summon, whether it was a synchro summon, link summon, it doesn't matter. You can just add an X-Saber monster from your deck to your hand, which you're most likely going to be going into Fall Troll, so next turn you'll be able to special summon it when you have two or more X-Sabers on the field, which is really, really good. What the hell? Oh, never mind. Oh, never mind. Sorry guys. My fire stick went to sleep. Anyway, so that's Dark Soul for you. And then the last of the X-Sabers, we have Double X-Saber Rocky Gora. This is actually one of the most hilarious old school cards in the game. This was released back in Ancient Prophecy, if I remember correctly. And what's funny about this card is that it's basically your Stratos, but for the graveyard. So the effect reads: when this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 X-Saber monster from your graveyard to your hand. So Dark Soul, Rocky Gora together, you got quite the interesting 2 monsters, to say the very least. And then for the support of the deck, we have 2 copies of Summoner Monk. This card basically just helps you go into your synchro plays, but the only problem with Summoner Monk is that it can miss timing. So the effect reads: while this card is face up on the field, it cannot be tributed. If this card is normal or flip summon, change this card to defense position. Once per turn, you can discard 1 spell, special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your deck, but that monster cannot attack this turn. If this card, meaning if you hear those 3 words, if this card, you're gonna miss timing, and it can easily be the summon, if you will, can be negated off of cards like Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, or it can easily be, it can be an easy target for Nibiru if you committed to multiple special summons and never to your normal. So that's one thing that I was mindful of, was that one instance alone. So that's why I decided to cut this to 2. Then for our hand traps, we've got 2 Ash Blossom and 2 Ghost Bell. I talk about this a lot on the channel with my deck profiles. Ash Blossom focuses on the deck. Ghost Bell focuses on the graveyard. These 2 work hand in hand so fucking well. It's absolutely insane. Then moving on into the spells. First up, we got the lone single copy of Polymerization, and you guys are wondering why. Why run Poly? Trust me, once we get to the extra deck, you will know why. You will know why. Then of course we got the one Rhoda, the one reinforcement of the army. Rhoda is just Rhoda. Rhoda is Rhoda. That's all it is. I don't have to say anything else. You just add a level 4 lower warrior from your deck to your hand. Plain and simple. Then, of course, we've got triple copies of Gotham's Second Call. This is actually probably one of the best cards in the X-Saber archetype, because its effect reads: if you control an X-Saber Synchro, you can target 2 X-Saber monsters in your grave, special summon both targets, ignoring their summoning condition, but change their attack to 0, also destroying them during the end phase of the turn. You can only activate one Gotham's Second Call per turn, and you cannot conduct your battle phase of the turn if you activate this card. So, obviously, you're going to be going into your Synchro plays with the effects of Second Call. But what's even more cool about this is that it acts as a double reborn for the whole deck. So let's say for example you have I'll say X-Saber or Bellum, and you want to go into a card like I'll say Cypher and Lord Omega. Let's say that you would go, and let's say also, for example, you have your Rakigura in your hand, and you never committed to your normal summon. What you do is you activate the Second Call, target Bogart Knight and Arabellum, summon them both, normal summon the Rakigura, add back Fall Troll to your hand, special summon the Fall Troll. Fall Troll's effect would not trigger just yet. You would not trigger just yet because your whole board would be full of monsters. You would tune Bogart Knight, Arabellum, and Rakigura together to summon the Omega, because it's a level 8. Bogart Knight is a 4, Arabellum is a 3, Rakigura is a 1. That's 8 in total. Then Full Troll's effect would trigger, and you would resummon Arabellum, and you would be able to just combo off from there to go into another Synchro play if need be, which is just absolutely insane. Then of course we've got the one Monster Reborn, because obviously it's Monster Reborn. Double Twin Twister. Obviously you want to try and have as much back row removal as possible, and I do have some in the side deck, but I decided to put 2 copies of Twin in the main because obviously if you have Full Troll in your hand, and let's say Dark Soul, or I'll say Twin and let's say the Bogart Knight, you want to activate Twin, send Bogart Knight to your graveyard. That way you can resummon it off of the effects of Fall Troll if need be. The 1 copy of Fire Formation Tenki, I don't know why. This card's at 1. It's utter bullshit. That's all I have to say. But it's basically your Stratos for the Beast Warriors, and you have actually 1, 2, 4, 5. 5, 6, 7. You have 7 Beast Warriors in the form of the two Guard Strike, the 3 Bogart Knight, and then the 2 Rakigura, which is actually insane. Then of course we have actually one of the most hilarious names for an Eclipse spell. We have 3 copies of Sword of Sparkles. This is one of the most hilarious names ever, but it's a really good card. The effect reads: equip only to an X-Saber monster. If it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can destroy 1 card your opponent controls. You contribute a monster you control to return this card from your grave to the top of your deck. Obviously that second effect is optional, but what's cool about this is that it's basically it could be basically an MST or a Dark Hole for the deck, and you could just blow up your opponent's board one by one, which is really good. And plus you have 3, so you can activate all 3, and you can basically just pop 3 cards per turn, which is absolutely insane. That's it for the spells. For the traps, we have 3 copies of Waking the Dragon, and there's actually a few Waking the Dragon targets. There's actually 3. There's 3 Waking the Dragon targets, but one of them can actually be summoned normally, which is actually really cool. Then, of course, we have 2 copies of Gotham's Emergency Call. This is basically Second Call, but in the form of a trap. So the effect reads: if a face-up X-Saber monster is on the field, target 2 X-Saber monsters in in any graveyard special summon both to your side of the field. So it's basically Gotham Second Call, but with no drawbacks, which is really good. And then 2 copies of Solemn Warning because, well, you don't want your opponent to be activating effects or summoning anything, and Solemn Warning is just really good. Moving on into the extra deck, I'm going to be going from links backward. And once we get to the Synchros, you'll know why. But first up, we have Mrs. Radiant. I realized it actually dawned on me, and I didn't even think about it until I started to readjust this deck. The X-Saber archetype is all Earth, and Mrs. Radiant is an Earth. This card actually works with the X-Sabers, which is hilarious. So the effect of Mrs. Radiant reads: all Earth monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense. Also all Wind monsters on the field lose 400 attack and defense. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 Earth monster in your grave, add it to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So what's cool about this is that you can just buff all of your Earth monsters, excuse me, by 500, and it can pretty much make all the difference depending on what your board looks like, which is pretty good. And then of course we've got the Nightmare package. We got Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. Cerberus focuses on destroying monsters that were special summoned. Phoenix focuses on the back row, and then Unicorn is basically a compulse, or I guess rather a trap dushu, but for the field, which is really cool. And if they're all co-linked together, you can basically just draw 3 cards during your draw phase, which would help you pretty much just beat your opponent easily. Now for the first of the 3 Waking the Dragon target, or I guess rather the first, yeah. Is it? Yeah. So the first Waken the Dragon target is actually Cyber Dragon Infinity. It's a Waken the Dragon target, and what's cool about this is that it helps you go into 1 card. Any guesses? No? None other than Divine Arsenal, AA Zeus, Sky Thunder. Basically the 1 card that just says fuck you. That's it. That's all it does. It just says fuck you, fuck your board. Have fun playing. Have fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This card just does not let your opponent play any form of Yu-Gi-Oh! Whatsoever. Especially if you activate Zeus' effect during the end phase. Absolutely nutty. Absolutely insane. It's really crazy. Then for the X-Saber Synchro monsters, first up we've got double X-Saber Hyunli. This card is basically a triple MST. So the effect reads: when this card is Synchro summoned, you can select and destroy up to 3 spell or traps on the field. It's basically a triple MST, and that's all I have to say about that. It's just absolutely stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Yes, it is a 2300 beat stick, but you're mainly going to be using Hyunli for its effect, and then you're just gonna basically link it off into a Unicorn, or even also or even a Mrs. Radiant, depending on what you want to go for. Then of course we've got X-Saber Urbella. This card is actually really cool because the effect reads: when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent while they have 4 or more cards in their hand, place 1 random card from their hand on top of their deck. So it's basically a, I would say a trap dushu, but it's more like a back to square one of sorts, I would say. Yes, yeah. So it's kind of like a back to square one trap dushu of sorts. But what's cool about this is that you basically just put it back on top of their deck, which is like absolutely absurd. So it just basically sets them back 1 turn, which is absolutely insane. Then of course we've got Xavier Souza. This is kind of a weird card, but the effect is nasty. So the effect reads: you contribute 1 X-Saber monster, then choose one of these effects. This card gains that effect until the end of the turn. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, destroy that monster. This card cannot be destroyed by trap effects. So you're mainly going to be using Souza's effect for the trap protection, because your opponent will end up activating evenly matched during the battle at the end of the battle phase, and you want to try and keep Souza on the field as much as you can. Not because of the fact that it's a 2500 beat stick, but because next turn you want to try and basically pop your opponent's board with this card, which is really cool. And then the last of the X-Saber synchros, we've got double X-Saber Gothams. One of the most interesting cards in the game. Released, I believe, in Absolute Power Force, absolutely crazy. And the effect reads: you contribute one X-Saber monster to discard a random card from your opponent's hand. The effect is not a once per turn, as far as what I can see, but it's pretty insane. Pretty insane. Being able to just set your opponent's tempo back, and give yourself a little bit of hand advantage over your opponent. That's actually not too bad. Then of course we've got Frame Lord Omega. The reason why I've got this is because there are some effects that do a little bit of banishing, and Frame Lord Omega just puts the cards back into your graveyard, so you can bring them back to your field depending on what you have. Then of course for the other Wake of the Dragon target, we've got Ally of Justice Decisive Armor. I've talked about this quite a few times on the channel. If you guys have never seen this card before, this was released in Hidden Arsenal 3, which this was actually by far the most expensive card of the set because of its effect. And its effect is absolutely absurd. So the effect reads: once per turn, if your opponent controls a face-up light monster or monsters, you can activate one of these effects. Select one set card your opponent controls and destroy it. Send one card from your hand to the grave to destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. Send all cards in your hand to the grave to look at your opponent's hand, and send all light monsters in their hand to the grave. Then inflict damage to your opponent equal to the total attack of the opponent's monsters sent to the grave. So this card can easily just wipe out your opponent's life points in a single effect. One single effect, depending on what deck your opponent plays, which is just insane. Then the reason I am running Poly. I have Naturia Beast and Naturia Barkion. Naturia Beast effect reads, when a spell card is activated as a quick effect, you can send the top two cards of your deck to the grave, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. This card must be on the field to activate and resolve the effect. Barkion focuses on trap cards. What do you do when you use polymerization to fuse Beast and Barkion? What do you get? Naturia Exterio, probably one of the most insane cards you will ever see. So, truth be told, it can be a super poly target, but your opponent would have to have one of the two on their field, and you would have to have the other on your field in order to summon it. But the effect reads: a fusion summon of this card can only be conducted with the above fusion material monsters. While this card is face up on the field, you can negate the activation of a spell or trap and destroy by removing from play one card from your graveyard, then sending the top card of your deck to the graveyard. That's why I've got the Omega, because Barkion banishes cards from your graveyard, as does Exterio. So that's why I've got the Cypher Lord Omega. Then for the side deck, this is my preference. You guys could do pretty much any side deck you want, but for my side deck, I've got 2 copies of Nibiru, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre. Obviously, Nibiru is basically Zeus, but a little bit different, a little bit different, if you will. Ghost Ogre is works well with the with the Ash Blossom and the Ghost Bell. Absolutely insane. This card mainly focuses on cards that are already face up on the field, which is just really good, and it just destroys them, so it's pretty cool. Then, of course, for the other Awaken the Dragon target, we've got number 38, Hope, Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. This card is basically another Awaken the Dragon target, which helps you go into Zeus the more materials you have, which is really cool. Then, of course, we got 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More. It is unfortunate that no battle damage will be dealt to your opponent, but as long as you're able to make your board and just wipe out your opponent's board as well, and in the process, you pretty much just have game right there. We've got the one Harpy's Feather Duster, another really good another nice back row removal card. The third Twin Twister, in case if we need more back row removal. 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, probably by far the most absurd card in the format. This was released back in Flames of Destruction, if I remember correctly, so it's still pretty expensive. But basically, it just negates your opponent's cards right off the bat, which is absolutely insane. 2 copies of Zing Zang, who is another really good old school Floodgate card. So the effect reads: activate by selecting 2 set spell traps on the field. The selected cards cannot be activated. So if your opponent has 4 cards in their back row and you believe 2 of them are more problematic than the other, you activate this, target those 2, and you're good to go. It's plain simple. And then to round out the whole deck itself, we got 2 copies of Solemn Strike in case if the warnings do not work. So all in all, pretty awesome deck. I will be posting it on my Instagram once this video gets posted. So make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. The link will be in the description. And that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. All the links will be down in the description below. And if you guys have any fan mail that you want to send me and want me to open up on the channel, that info will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.